Okay, so I thought I would try to record a video for you to help you see how I would annotate an article and refresh you on some of the tools that you can use to make those annotations. So we're in Adobe Reader, which is the first step to any of the articles that we read, and we know that we have that list of things that we're going to look for. We're going to look for the main idea, the 4 to 5 supporting details, who is the author, is the author credible, what is the source, is that source credible. We're going to paraphrase some of the information, and we're going to connect it to our life personally. So the first thing that I like to do when I look at an article is look for the author. So I know we're not going in order, but that's okay. So if I'm looking at this document, top to bottom, I see references, but I don't see an author. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here and I'm going to write author. And I'm going to take my little comment box and I'm going to write, there is no author listed. And then for author credibility, I'm going to put that right here. And if there's no author listed, we learned that that means what? Well, if there is no author, then we can't say that the person who wrote this is an expert on GMOs. Therefore, author credibility is low. All right, so we have our author credibility. The next thing I want to find is source credibility. So I'm looking through this, and I actually don't see the source on this document. But if you go back to the assignment itself, it says author none given, title GMO, date none given, source the world's healthiest foods, and it actually says that this is an online source. It gives us a URL. What does GMO mean? And if I click that, oh my gosh, here's the website that came from. So this is a website, and the extension of the website is a .org. And so we learned in our research this week what a .org means. So I'm going to come back to my document, and I'm going to write up here, source, and I'm going to put it in a little comment box, and I'm going to say, the source is a website with a .org. In terms of credibility, what does that mean? And I might make this a separate one, although you could write it in the same box. So source credibility, and I might say the source is a website, which means that it isn't reviewed by experts before printing or before publishing. And there is no internet truth police. So source credibility is low. Okay, so we have 2 pieces that we need. Now, the next thing I like to do is take out the structure of the author, or the article rather, and see what's there. So if I'm looking at the title, this is usually a great clue for the main idea. So what does GMO mean? It seems like if that's the question and the article follows, the article is going to be explaining what a GMO means. And that makes sense because that tells us the rhetorical mode as well. So I might write main idea. This article will explain what a GMO is and what we need to know about it. You could also use your own words. Please use your own words when you're doing this, but at least we have an idea of the main idea. So the next thing I do is I cruise through the article and look for any text that looks different from other text, because that's usually a good clue. And in doing so, it looks like there are 4 different headers in this article that are bolded. And that's important for us to pay attention to because those are the clues for the major supporting ideas. We're really lucky that this article actually has 4 listed because that makes our work pretty easy. So I'm going to read this first chunk of text here and see if there's a supporting detail in there, because I can have up to 5. So GMO stands for genetically modified organisms, and in the case of food, it usually refers to foods that have been genetically engineered for reasons unrelated to health or nourishment. You may also see the term GE foods, which stands for genetically engineered foods, or some terms like genetically altered or genetically modified or genetically improved to describe these foods. The process of genetically modifying foods is relatively new to the world of agriculture. In 1994, no GE crops had been planted in the United States. Today, more than 165 million acres are planted each year. The Center for Food Safety, a nonprofit public interest and environmental advocacy group headquartered in Washington, D.C., estimates that 70 to 75% of all grocery store products contain at least one genetically modified ingredient. You have almost certainly already consumed many GE foods, whether you knew it or not. So if we're looking at that 2-paragraph chunk of text, I want to pull out a supporting detail. So I'm going to write SD1. And if I'm looking at what the most important ideas are, well, it actually defined what a GMO is. So I would say SD1, a GMO is a genetically modified organism. And I might say it has been changed for reasons other than to make it better for us to eat. And we can find them in our grocery stores everywhere. All right, so we have our supporting detail 1. Now the next chunk of text, uncertain health risks with GE foods. So I'm thinking to myself, if that's the header for this chunk of text, what is it going to try to tell me? So I'm going to write here SD2. Because I know it's going to be something important related to the health risks of GE foods. So the health risks associated with GE foods have not been clearly identified. Given their meteoric rise within the food supply, little research has been done to determine their potential health risks. Since genes are blueprints for making proteins, GE foods, by definition, contain novel proteins that were not present in the food prior to its genetic modification. Since proteins are often the basis for allergic food reaction, our immune system will sometimes make antibodies to help neutralize proteins that are interpreted as potentially dangerous to our health. Many scientists have speculated that novel proteins in GE foods may cause these foods to trigger allergic reactions more frequently than their non-GE counterparts. Additionally, some scientists believe that the altered genetic and protein composition of GE foods may present problems for various regulatory systems in the body, including the immune and inflammatory system, and may cause disruption in cell signaling or in the digestive tract function. Okay, so lots of details there about how particularly GEs might affect our diet. So I might write, it's not clear how GMOs will or affect our health, but it seems like there is the potential to do harm to our bodies. And you can put that in your own words. You can include other details like triggering allergic reactions, say may trigger digestive problems or allergies. Okay, so the next title header here is GE soybeans, GE corn, and GE sugar beets are of special concern. So this is going to be our third supporting detail. So something in this next chunk of text is going to tell us about why soybeans, corn, and sugar are particularly dangerous to us, or maybe particularly worth looking at. So according to 2010 data from the U.S. Department of Agriculture, just over 90% of all U.S. soybeans, 90% of U.S. sugar beets, and 85% of U.S. corn crops are genetically modified. Because many foods contain cottonseed oil, it's worth noting that 90% of U.S. cotton crops are also genetically engineered. This very high percentage of genetic engineering in the production of corn, soybeans, and sugar beets greatly increases exposure to GE foods among U.S. consumers, since processed components from these foods are found in so many processed and prepackaged foods. For corn, of course, the most processing product is HFCS, or high fructose corn syrup. This product is found in literally thousands of processed foods, including sodas, baked goods, and many other foods. Other processed food ingredients that often come from corn include corn syrup solids, malt, maltodextrin, maltose, maltoethyl malta, malt syrup, mannitol, dextrose, dextrin, and polydextrose. Of course, cornstarch, corn flour, and corn oil are also corn-based ingredients. When produced in the U.S., all of the above ingredients are likely to have originated from genetically engineered corn, unless specifically certified as organic. Genetic engineering is not allowed in the production of certified organic foods or food ingredients. As one of the most common foods in the U.S., soybeans can be even more difficult than corn to identify in processed and prepackaged foods. The list of processed food ingredients derived from soybeans is a long one and includes hydrolyzed vegetable protein, HVP, textured vegetable protein, TVP, textured soy protein, TSP, textured soy flour, TSF, lecithin, meat analogs, isolated soy protein, isolated vegetable protein, soy protein concentrate, and structured protein fiber, SPF. Of course, soy bran, soy fiber, soy nuts, soy oil, soy sauce, soy grits, soy meal are also made from soybeans. When produced in the U.S., all of the above ingredients are likely to have originated from genetically engineered soybeans unless certified as organic. Genetically engineering is not allowed in the production of certified organic foods or ingredients. When the rise of genetic engineering of soybeans and corns has been relatively steady over the past 10 years, the rise in genetic engineering of sugar beets has been much sharper and more recent. Sugar beets currently supply approximately half of the processed sugar added to prepackaged foods in the U.S., and the vast majority of sugar beet seeds sold in the U.S. are genetically engineered seeds. Beet sugar is found in a wide variety of different processed foods, including cereals, baked goods, beverages, cereals, and candies. Chocolates are also sometimes sweetened with beet sugar. When produced in the U.S., beet sugar that is listed in the ingredients of any product above is likely to have originated from genetically engineered sugar beets, unless specifically certified as organic. Genetic engineering is not allowed in the production of certified organic foods or food ingredients. Wow, so if I look back at those three paragraphs, the first thing I'm thinking is my personal connection, even before I go to summary. So I'm going to write PC right here and add my little thought bubble. Wow, I apparently eat a lot of GE or GMO foods. It sounds like they are in everything. And I'm going to put a sad face there. So if I go back up to the top and I'm thinking, how can I paraphrase this into one supporting detail? I'm going to grab my thought bubble and I'm going to say, GMOs like soybeans, corn, and sugar beets are in almost everything we buy at the store. The list is very long and includes tons of ingredients in packaged foods. All right, so let's go down to our next section of text right here. Organic will help you avoid GE foods. So I'm going to go ahead and add this text here and do SD4. Since the U.S. National Organic Program forbids the use of genetic modification in foods to be certified as organic, purchasing organic is a great way to lower your exposure to GE foods. So that seems pretty straightforward. So maybe our fourth supporting detail is if you don't want to eat GMOs, look for organic foods. All right, and then to our next section of text, non-GMO or GMO-free on food labels. So we know that this is going to be our 5th supporting detail, and we only want 5, so that's actually great news because we're right on track. So I got, I'll label it right here, SD5. Okay, so our last paragraph. Unfortunately, no mandatory labeling laws for GE foods exist in the United States, even though England, France, Germany, New Zealand, Switzerland, China, Indonesia, and over 25 other countries require labeling of GE foods. Certain GE food crops are actually banned in some countries, including England, Japan, Brazil, Norway, India, and Thailand. In the United States, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, has generally discouraged the use of terms like GMO-free or non-GMO on food labels and has expressed concerns about these terms being misleading. From the FDA's perspective, any statement that implies superiority of a GMO-free food is misleading because they note that there is no scientific evidence to support any increased health risks associated with GE foods. While we agree that scientific studies are sadly lacking in this area, we also believe that GE foods can logically be expected to bring with them added health risks, and we would like to see all GE foods and non-GE foods clearly labeled for this reason. However, until such labeling is widely adopted, the only practical way to lower GMO risks is to select certified organic foods. So this is talking about labels, and I think that if I were to try my little paraphrase of the supporting detail, while many countries require GMO products and ingredients to be labeled, the U.S. does not. The FDA thinks that GMO foods are fine, even if other countries don't. All right, so we have our 5 supporting details. We have our personal connection. We have our main idea. We have our author credibility, our source, and our source credibility. So if you have done all of that, you are officially done, and you're in great shape for the second part of this unit where you'll be asked to do a write-up, including all of these details in a paragraph. All right, save your document and you are ready to go.